guys, welcome to Entertainment Talk Nation. This is Rob. This video, we're going to have another Godzilla topic brought to us by community member of the nation. And this one, we're going to discuss a little bit of Kong versus Godzilla. We're going to jump into the future a little bit because we know that shortly after Godzilla King of the Monsters, it's going to be the beginning of the Kong versus Godzilla train. And we're probably going to start seeing some of that stuff this July for Comic-Con. So I don't think it's too soon to talk about it, but just to address the question at hand is whether or not Kong will have his electric abilities. And, I'm not a big Kong versus Godzilla fan, the old one, I'm not. While I'm looking forward to this next installment in the Monsterverse, I was not a fan of Godzilla versus King Kong, not at all. And furthermore, I thought the electricity abilities that King Kong had was just something they kind of threw in there to counter Godzilla a little bit. So will we see it in this movie? I'm gonna go with no, and I'm also gonna add to that if we do see something related to it, it's gonna be very brief, and it might just be something like a bit of an Easter egg. Maybe something happens where he gets knocked out, and electricity hits him and kind of wakes him up, but that's it. Something along those lines. I'm just using that as an example. I don't think we'll see it because if he had that power, I think we would have seen some sort of indication of that in Kong Skull Island, and we did not. And I think that's the big key here because we knew King Kong versus Godzilla, at least I'm pretty certain we knew about it right around the time Kong versus Skull Island was being worked on. Regardless, King Kong versus Godzilla was probably already discussed and agreed upon before we even heard about it, which tells me that if they wanted to do this power, they would have at least teased it or given us some indication that he had this kind of capability before or during, I should say, Kong Skull Island. And we did not. We saw nothing. We saw no indication that he had this power. Now, the argument could be made that perhaps it's something that he hadn't developed yet. We do know that John C. Reilly's character did express that Kong was still growing, that he was rather young. We do know the movie took place in the 70s, so a lot of things could have changed between the 70s and the late 2000s, because we do know that this Godzilla King of the Monsters takes place on our timeline, 2019. So Godzilla King of the Monsters essentially is 5 years later. So considering that Kong and Godzilla are going to meet in 2020, it's very, that's essentially almost 40 years later. So a lot of things could have changed for Kong. The question is, if they decide to go this route, how do they incorporate it in a way that's believable? We do know that it seems very likely that Kong is going to, while in this Monsterverse, they're going to take a very similar approach to what they're doing in Godzilla King of the Monsters, in that they're still trying to keep it grounded, but they're sprinkling a little cheese on it. We can see that already in Godzilla King of the Monsters. We do know that Mike Dougherty has drafted and has written in some of the script, so to keep continuity and to keep cohesiveness. We do understand that despite the fact that Kong's still growing, he may very well be a lot smaller than Godzilla. We also understand that Kong is facing a very strong Godzilla, if we are to believe that, and which there's no reason not to, that Godzilla is going to beat Ghidorah. And Ghidorah, obviously, I think we can fairly say right now at this point, is stronger than King Kong. The problem is we don't know what's happened to Kong between Skull Island and now. And I think that's the key factor here. And I think that's the story they need to tell in Kong versus Godzilla, is even though it's both the monsters movie, we really need to start that movie catching up with Kong, catching up with what's happened with him over the last 30 plus years. So while I don't think they'll do it, it wouldn't surprise me if they did it at all, if they actually implemented it. It's just, how do you do it? What was it that made him gain these powers? How effective are they going to be against Godzilla? When you consider Kong's intelligence, his speed, he is lightning faster than Godzilla. So I think with the intelligence factor and the immense speed and the power. He's going to have the power behind it too. Does he really need it is the question. I mean, we know Godzilla has immense strength and his atomic breath, but I think one thing we have to keep in mind is Kong is light years faster than Ghidorah. So how easy would it be Godzilla to catch him with an atomic blast? Unless it's point blank range, I don't see it happening. So there are some advantages that Kong is going to have against Godzilla, and it might just be enough so that he may not need that power. So, I think it's 50-50. I think it's 50-50. If someone were to put a gun to my head, I would say no, because we just didn't see any indication of it during Kong Skull Island. And I think something like that, that's very unique, you really have to kind of plant that seed early, because a gorilla with electricity powers or lightning powers, it's a lot to take in if you're a general audience without getting some indication in his last movie that he's capable of this. So I think we'll have to, I think we'll just have to wait and see. One thing's for sure, we're going to start getting some questions answered starting July with Comic-Con, right off the heels of Godzilla King of the Monsters. We're going to have, so I'm sure, almost certain, we'll have Comic-Con, I said Comic-Con, I meant Comic-Con, information regarding the movie. I'm sure we're going to get a trailer. I'm sure they're going to want to ramp this movie up just as much as Godzilla King of the Monsters. So I suspect we'll get some questions answered. I do think that the movie is going to take place on Skull Island. I will say that much. Right now, if we look at this movie coming out, Godzilla King of the Monsters, while we have to see the movie first, we still haven't seen it, and while Mike Doherty did admit that they give a little nod towards King Kong, we know he's not going to be in the movie, at least as far as we know. And right now, there's no indication within the MonsterVerse that he's left the island. One of the things I mentioned to people on the nation, I'll share it here, is that my speculation is that after this rough battle with Ghidorah, Godzilla, in an attempt to stay away from humanity, because remember, they've been tracking him the last 5 years, this time he's probably not going to want to be bothered. I think they're going to try and take Skull Island and kind of make it somewhat of a monster island. And I think Godzilla is going to try to make that his home. And I think this war is going to be about territory. I don't know if it's going to take place in cities or any of that. It might shift to that direction, but then why would it? So far Godzilla hasn't shown any indication of hostility towards humans. He hasn't purposely or intentionally come from his depths just to destroy buildings. So it wouldn't surprise me if the movie takes place on Skull Island. We discover other monsters, other titans. Maybe Godzilla and Kong do team up at some point, but rather than facing one monster, they go on like a rampage tour. Like me, like they go around the world and get rid of all the titans. Who knows? So we'll see. But that's my thoughts on that. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. And until next video, this is Rob signing off for E.T.N, where we don't do news, we just talk entertainment. Take it easy.
Thank you for watching E.T.N. Don't forget to subscribe and join the Nation Facebook page.